Guys, welcome to lesson 23 where we're going to learn how to import stuff from an actual disk file into Java. So this is where it starts to get good and interesting. Note, not hard, just interesting. So go ahead and get yourself set up with a lovely new lesson 23 file and get this all set up this way. So we're going to use a scanner in here, as you could probably tell from importing util and IO. So go ahead and do scanner, and you can name it whatever you want. Name it SF equals new scanner. And what we used to do is put in strings here. So now what we're going to, instead of just putting in string and getting it from the keyboard, we're going to get it from a new file. And then in these parentheses, we're going to put our file name. So let's create a file. Right now it's not super happy with us. So what I want you to do is go to your start menu and open Windows Notepad. So if you just type in Notepad, it should open one of these lovely little windows for you. So I'm going to type in some text here. You can type in whatever text you want, but I'm going to type in one of my favoriteest poems of all time from the lovely film Lord of the Rings. And I put in some numbers here too, just for gigs to see what we're going to need with them. Now at the end, I want you to click down somewhere down in the dungeons of your document here and make sure that there's no space after your last line and that there's just one enter so that your insertion point should be right below your last line and no further than that. If there's a lot of extra enters, it's going to cause you a little bit of trouble later. So we're going to save this wherever your stuff gets saved in your workspace. So there's a way to check that if you go back into Eclipse and right click on lesson 23 and go to properties. It shows you right here. So mine's in my C drive, users, Spaunhorst, workspace, lesson 23. So that's where we need to go. So file, save as, and then you go down, and there's my C drive. It says local disk, users, Spaunhorst, workspace, and then lesson 23. So I'm going to save it in here. Wherever yours is, that's where you need to save it. But this part you need to pay attention to. So I'm going to save it as my data. Make sure it's no spaces in here, no spaces. .in. So now that's .in, save as type. We don't want it to be .txt. We want it to be all files. So mydata.in and then save as type all files and then click save. Okay, so we're all saved. So I'm going to go check mine. So go to wherever yours is saved. Mine's here. Users, Spaunhorst, workspace, lesson 23. And there it is. It did save correctly. Now I want you to make very certain that you can see the extensions. So go to your start menu and type in folder options. Okay, so it'll come here and go to view. And you see where it says hide extensions for known file types? Uncheck that. We want to see all of our extensions for known file types. It'll change a few things in your computer, but it'll just change the view, not how they're actually in there. So you'll see all those .docx files and things like that. So just make sure that is unchecked and then click apply and OK. Now the reason I had you do that is because for this, we want to make sure that it's an in file because there might be a hidden .txt at the end. So if yours did do that, so if there's .txt at the end of yours, please go rewind the video a little bit and then do the file save as and make sure you don't let that happen again. So now that we have our .in file created and check that it's there, I'm going to leave this open so that I can see what the order this goes in, and then I'm going to move it just to the side. And then you can actually close your text file. So now where it says new file, we're going to put in quotes. And then mine is in my C drive, so C:// and make sure it's not the regular backslash, it's the front slash right above your enter key. Okay, and then my next thing is users, and then that / again, 2 of them. Spaunhorst, 2 / workspace, 2 2 forward slashes, and then it says my data dot in. So anytime you see one of those little arrows in here, put in those forward slashes. So now come down a couple of lines. We're going to close the file. So anytime you open a file, you need to close it. So sf.close. So that's always how you close your scanner. Remember before when we were having things where scanners never close? That's how you close it. So you'll notice we have an error. So let's check and see what our error is. It says throws declaration. So what we need to do is come in that public static void main string rx line, and what you're going to do is you're going to type in throws IO exception. IO is capitalized and the E in exception is capitalized, and our error goes away. So what this throws IO exception is doing, and we will talk about this in a later chapter, but it's making exceptions just in case this file does not exist. We know it does because we followed it there, but just in case it's not there, we need to throw the exception. All right, so I'm going to add in some code for us to follow along here. So what we want to do is we want to start at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set our max index to -. That way, when we run our while loop, it'll enter the while loop and increase to 0. So it's going to start our index at 0. So now we need to set up an array. And since we have words in ours, we should set up a string. So we set up our string array right here, and I set it to 100 places. And within our loop, we're going to fill in our array with the next line. Hopefully whatever poem you created does not have more than 100 lines of text. Mine only had 5, but I'm going to leave it at 100 just in case I want to add more and find more Tolkien poems to add into my code. So this has next. This loop will keep running as long as our scanner sees that there is a new line of code. So once it stops seeing a new line, it will stop running. So basically what this is doing is it's taking each line and storing it in our array. So text sub 0 would be 1 ring to rule them all. I don't remember what all I capitalized, but that's going to be my first line. So each line is going to be its own array, or each an index in its own array. Okay, so we could run this, but it's not going to give us anything. So we need to, get some output to see what our code really does. So we need to make a loop that's going to print each line of our code. So hopefully by now you're at least comfortable going through an array and printing each line of it. So pause here, see if you can do it. Go ahead and pause, I'll wait. And hopefully yours came out very similar to this. Good job. So now you'll notice that I wrote this after we closed our scanner, because in this while loop up here, we imported things from the file into the array. So we don't need that file anymore. We already have it stored in our array. All right, so let's see how well we did. So I'm going to move this down so we can see. I'm going to run it. And oh, I have an exception. So file not found exception. So let's take a look at where it was going. Cannot find this file specified. Ah, because I just went to workspace. I didn't put in lesson 23 because that's where it was. So if it can't find your file, you're going to have an error. So let's try it again. And there it is. Ah, such a magical poem. Other errors you could have had is if you put in only one backslash here, it'll be looking for escape sequences. So make sure you have those double backslashes in there, because otherwise, God knows what you'll get sometimes. So for lesson 23, you have some questions and you also have a project for it. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.